How's it going, Jets fans? Welcome back to Fireside Jets with your boys Alex and Ryan. Today we're discussing Mike White. Is he the quarterback moving forward? Robert Saleh obviously had some thoughts on that today. Zach Wilson's future. Are they going to use Zach Wilson? Currently, I'm leaning toward no. Almost beating the Vikings is a pretty astounding accomplishment. I know they got blown out by Dallas a couple weeks ago, but I think that was just anomaly by the most part. And you look at what they did to the Bears. You look at Garrett Wilson, 160 yards. Mike White's getting the job done. Did he throw a lot of touchdowns? No. Did he do any touchdowns in his last game? No. But, the yards are there. The red zone efficiency, not exactly where you want it to be. I think the presence of Breece Hall would have really elevated this entire offense to begin with. It would have allowed Mike White to be more efficient. But it is what it is. You got Zonovan Knight. You got James Robinson. Michael Carter is a little bit banged up, but I think right now what we're seeing is Mike White is able to operate this offense, is able to get the ball into the hands of the playmakers, and that's more than what Zach Wilson was doing. So I think we have to have a discussion on his future, Mike White specifically, what he needs to do to continue proving that he is worthwhile starting at quarterback for this New York Jets team. But Ryan, before we dive into it, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing well, Alex. I think, yesterday was a tough loss, and all Jet fans are, in some pain today following it, but I think the last two games, what Mike White has shown, you have to be optimistic about it. Obviously the big question now becomes, should he be the starter the rest of the way? And obviously there's only 5 more games left in the season, as we were saying before we started here. And I think that's why it's just such a fascinating question. And I get it from both sides. Like what Mike White has shown, the last 2 games is just what you said, the distributor, the guy that can play within the structure of the offense, the timing, giving guys trust throws, whether it's Garrett Wilson the last 2 weeks. You saw Elijah Moore get a couple of those last week. This week it was really Corey Davis, when it wasn't Garrett Wilson. Zonovan Bam Knight has been awesome, like you said. And, even just the checkdowns, I think, what we've seen is just a guy that can, distribute the ball effectively and give these, great skill position players that the Jets have opportunities in space. And, obviously what Saleh said today, I don't think it comes as much of a surprise to me personally. I think as fans, sometimes we could be a little overly emotional, and I totally get it. I mean, look, football is a game that you play once a week, and it's very easy to kind of cling on to yesterday's game for a couple of days. But the truth is, the Jets have got to turn the page here quickly. Going to Buffalo to play the Bills. Obviously, they're going to be fired up with the fact that the Jets happened to beat them last time, and from here on out, every game really is a playoff game for the Jets. But I with Saleh's comments today and, really not committing, I think it's not really too surprising when that, the Jets just drafted Zach second overall a year ago. The physical and athletic talent is undeniably there. Nothing with Zach's struggles. And I even think the biggest hater of Zach Wilson would say, his problems had nothing to do with a lack of any sort of talent whatsoever. Everything is just between the ears with him. It's mental, it's confidence. And, at this point in time, I just think it's going to continue to really be a week by week thing, as much as, me personally, and I think most Jet fans disagree. I can understand, where Saleh is coming from with his comments at the moment. And I think he's really, just continued to prove not only is this team on the field fighting until the finish, being down 20-3 like they did yesterday, but I think what Saleh is showing just in terms of his command of the situation, it leads me to feel good that, the Jets are moving in the right direction, and that these final 5 games, which are obviously, everything is at stake for this football team, at 7-5 in the thick of things, obviously got some help with the Chargers lost yesterday afternoon after a tough loss for the Jets. So let's just continue to hope, for continued success really either way.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing. Like you said, Zach Wilson's problem is between the ears. Mentally he's shot. He's not confident. Benching him certainly doesn't help. But I will say this, Mike White is showcasing that he can be a game manager. He can get the ball in the hands of the playmakers that need to get the ball. Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore has been a little bit iffy still, and I don't really know why. I think someone said on social media, it might have been Connor Hughes or somebody, said, why is Braxton Berrios getting all these jet sweeps, end arounds? Why is Elijah Moore is the better player? He is the electric playmaker. Why is he not getting these touches? To me, it sounds like he's in the doghouse, and they're just not giving them to him because they don't want to give them to him when we all know what he's capable of. So they're trying to figure out how to get him more instilled and involved in the culture, because right now I feel like he's not a culture fit, more so than anything. But with that being said, Garrett Wilson, full-on culture fit. He is the culture. He is kicking ass, and absolutely love the guy. Just a stellar talent. I mean, he's carrying that offense on his back, if we're being honest right now, right? He's carrying on his back. And Mike White, looking at what he did, I don't know the last time I saw a quarterback with 57 passing attempts in a game, but 31 for 57, 369 yards, 6.5 per per reception is quite low with a 23.1 QBR and 60 quarterback rating. By the numbers, he did not have a good game. The 2 interceptions obviously stand out. Knight actually had 6 yards per carry with a long of 48. He looked great. Garrett Wilson turns water into wine, and that really is what makes things go on this offense. But you have a pretty good team in the Bills. Obviously you beat them with Zach Wilson a couple of weeks ago. I was actually at that game, and Zach, he didn't do much. It was just great defense all around. They made Josh Allen look pedestrian. But Buffalo has a very solid defense. Mike White, this is where we see the real Mike White against good teams. The Bears suck. Not surprised he tore them apart. Vikings didn't look that great. They have a decent defense. Bills have a very good defense. They have a borderline elite defense. If we see a very good version of Mike White, no reason to move them. No reason to change him. No reason to put Zach Wilson back in there. But if we see a good version of Mike White, Zach Wilson's future becomes a little bit more muddied. Now, my question for you is Zach Wilson still the future? Like right now, if Mike White still continues to earn those opportunities, remains that starter, are we sitting here next year saying, I think the Jets are going to be trading, or maybe not even next year, I guess next year, next offseason, are we trading? Are the Jets trading Zach Wilson, or is he still the conceivable future? How are you feeling right now about that?
It's a great question. I mean, you just factor in, like I said earlier, the talent, the youth. Zach only turns 24 years old next August. And you factor in, unfortunately, as much as Jet fans and myself included don't really want to hear it, the dead money attached to his contract is going to make it very hard for the Jets to get rid of him this offseason, whether it be a trade or whatever. But at this point in time, I don't think he's the future by any means. I think, he's still inactive, will be once again this week. And I think moving forward, they really want to see, I think it's a, obviously Sal alluded to it as a reset and just honing in on the fundamentals, getting back to the basics, the footwork, which is obviously where a lot of Zach's issues along with the, mental side of things were coming, was just like we highlighted, the footwork was kind of leading to some inaccuracies. And I think getting back to that, because it was actually a big point at the end of 2021 that Michael LaFleur continued to hone in on, was, really setting Zach's base first and foremost. And I think Zach got away from that. Now, at this point in time, what I also wanted to say, I think it is a bit of just a challenge for him as much as anything. I think he's got to really prove himself to Saleh, LaFleur, JD, the whole organization, that he's going to respond to this the right way and really not take things for granted. I think you didn't really see a ton of humility from him, and I think his comments are pretty indicative of that after the Patriots loss. And supposedly he was a bit taken aback that he even was benched. So I think as much as anything, they're really trying to see a different side of Zach. I think we all know, like I said, nothing, in terms of Zach's issues have anything to do with the lack of ability and athletically or from an arm talent standpoint. At this point in time, though, I certainly, while I don't think he'll be traded, like I said, because of the dead money attached to his contract being a second overall pick just a year ago, at this point in time, I think he's full on in a competition role where nothing is going to be handed to him like it has been in the past. And he's going to really have to continue to prove himself, I think, to these coaches in the front office.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a big question mark, right? The future of Zach Wilson is up in the air. But here's the thing. Mike White, in my opinion, is not the future either, right? Mike White is not the future of this team at quarterback. I don't think he's a franchise quarterback. I think he's a good backup quarterback who is playing above, and maybe not even above. I think last week was probably about where he's going to kind of reside, like good, not great. I think that first game against the Bears, maybe he can beat up. Maybe he's like, who's that? He's like a Minshew. He's like a Gardner Minshew. That's how I see Mike White. I think that's his ceiling, Gardner Minshew. I just don't see him being that just electrifying, game-changing factor. I think more so you're going to need a new quarterback if you want to go in that direction. But with that being said, Zach Wilson still has time. If he doesn't work out and Mike White continues to beat him out for reps, beat him out for snaps, that's a problem. That is not a solution. That is a bad thing, in my opinion, right? If the Jets do not get Zach Wilson back in the mix, that is a bad thing, guys. That's a problem. Because now you have to make a change. Because Zach Wilson, if Mike White is doing that poorly, where Zach Wilson is back in this lineup, we know what Zach Wilson is this season. We know what he's like mentally. We know that he's not getting the proper coaching because mentally he's shot. Like you said before, it's between the ears. They're not doing something to help him. There's something going wrong behind the scenes with the Jets and Zach Wilson. He just might not be in the right place. Give him to Brian Dable. Maybe he changes into a good quarterback. Who knows? But I'll tell you what. Right now, I think we're going down the path of Zach Wilson being traded more so than him being the future of this team. The question is, what are the alternatives? The Jets are not going to draft another quarterback this upcoming year, right? They're not drafting another quarterback. Maybe you go for Lamar, but I think he's going to get franchise tagged if anything. Maybe you go for a Jimmy G. You maybe try Jimmy G. He has a broken foot, so he's not going to play the rest of this year. But there's guys that may be on the trade block. I don't think maybe you go and try to sign Daniel Jones in free agency. I think he's better than Zach Wilson right now. I think it's a terrible option, but it is, but it's an option, So this Jets team, here's my take though. This Jets team is a quarterback away from being legitimate playoff contenders, legitimate like playoff competitors where they could get to a Super Bowl because this defense is that good. And they have the weapons. Breece Hall coming back. You got Moore. You got Garrett. Pretty good offensive line. AVT will be back next year. You still got to figure out the kind of tackle situation. But I think this team next year is a quarterback away from being a very, very good one. Maybe you can convince Aaron Rodgers to come through. Maybe you can get him to say, you know what? I'm forcing my way to the Jets. Who knows? But there's got to be a solution. Right now, I think we're probably heading in the direction where Zach Wilson is not a part of this future. But, if this was a reality and they have to make that unfortunate decision, do you think that they go and try to trade for a veteran? What do you think about that?
It's interesting. And the other name I think will probably get flown around out there too is Tom Brady, knowing he's a free agent and, potentially sticking to Belichick. But at the end of the day, I think the Jets, while you said it perfectly, they're a quarterback away. I would argue with the talent level that the Jets have, Alex, I don't even think they're like an elite quarterback away. I just think they need, like we've kind of said on past episodes, they just need like average, not below average play, honestly, for crying out loud on a team that's this talented. They just need some sort of consistency. They need a distributor. They need a guy that can just play within the structure of Mike LaFleur's quarterback-friendly offense. And, if so, I think this Jets team, like you said, the blue chip talent from the past two drafts, the way Quinnen Williams is playing right now, they have elite difference makers finally for once. And it's the reason they're 7-5. They have a chance of making the playoffs here. And ultimately, I feel good about their chances knowing the Chargers next 2 games. I want to say the Dolphins and the Titans. We got to hope as Jet fans, obviously they lose both of those games and it really kind of plays to the Jets' favor getting that 7th seed when all is said and done. But I think, you said it best, the talent, the blue chip, difference makers on both sides of the ball from these last few draft classes and continuing to really see JD and Salah build this up. I think it takes pressure off of, getting that true elite, blue chip type of quarterback in place. And, regardless, if the Jets can just get some sort of consistency under center, I think, this team has all the pieces in place to, potentially do something big. Yeah, I even feel like down the stretch here. This team has had an incredible year. I think they're going to go into Buffalo and put up a good fight. And, we're just going to continue to really, hopefully, they accelerated the growth this year in year 2 of Salah. And let's just hope for more of it, continuing, starting the rest of this year.
Yeah. Look, this team has so much freaking talent. So much talent, across the board, youth, and not just youth, but talented youth. Like the steps that some of these individuals have taken in their rookie seasons, let alone sophomore or junior seasons. Sauce Gardner looks like a different player, right? He started good. Now he's great. Limited. Him and DJ Reed did a pretty good job on Justin Jefferson. I know DJ and Jefferson were going back and forth, but 7 catches for 45 yards is nothing special. The 1 touchdown, DJ Reed was right there. His arms, if DJ Reed had Sauce's pterodactyl wingspan, that would have been an incompletion. You know what I mean? Like, I think that right now you're looking at a very, very, very good defensive unit. You got Quinnen Williams. So, you have just Jermaine Johnson's really, really good. Great athletes all around. And then the offense, similar thing. Garrett Wilson, the growth we've seen from him week after week, his progression. Breece Hall literally came out of the freaking draft like a cannon. So you're seeing what these guys are capable of. Now, it's just the quarterback position. That's it. That's all we got to figure out. That's all the Jets have to figure out. And if they can, you're looking at a Super Bowl caliber team in a year or 2. I promise you that. If they can find themselves a quarterback, this team will be competing for a Super Bowl. And I think that the Jets realize that. Like, their offense is stalling because of the quarterback position and nothing else. The quarterback is the reason you're good in the red zone. Of course, the scheme obviously plays into it, but I think LaFleur's a fine enough coordinator to get the job done. But the quarterback ultimately, mistakes in the red zone, not taking the necessary risks, not making those throws, getting to the red zone in general, obviously reliant on a good passing game. So, everything predicates on that for the Jets. And I'm very excited and curious to see their strategy moving forward, if they think that Zach can be that option or if they want to go in a different direction. So I'd love to hear your guys' perspective below in the YouTube comments, your thoughts about Zach, thoughts about Mike White. If you think either of those two guys have a future as the franchise quarterback of this team, or you think that maybe they're going to have to move on from both and find another option. Always happy to hear your perspectives down below in the comment section. But as always, my friends, make sure to enjoy the rest of your day. Like, subscribe as always. And we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Jets episode.